No
I
problem.
set it on record and we'll see. And if I hate it, I won't send it out. Okay.
Saying it and
And just so you know, the way I have my Zoom set up, I can only see 5 of you now that I have started sharing my screen. And so if you raise your hand, I may not be able to see you. So if you have a question, just go ahead and ask it. Okay. And I'll try and stop talking every once in a while to make room, to make an open space for you to ask a question. So at the end of this session today, what I expect will happen is that all of you will be able to use the common Zoom controls, and hopefully you'll feel comfortable using them. And you'll be able to set up and host a Zoom meeting, and you'll be able to share your screen in Zoom. And I'm hoping that when you're comfortable with it, that you'll love this tool as much as I do. I think this tool is one of the most amazing pieces of software I've seen in a long time. It's intuitive mostly, it's easy, it's reliable, it's pretty, it looks, it's a lot of good things. So I have a disclaimer up front. A couple of disclaimers. Okay, for any computer task that you ever want to do, there are at least 2 and sometimes 3 or 4 ways to do it. So, and I'm not going to cover every single way to do things. I'm going to cover the way that seems most intuitive to me. And I'm not going to cover 3 or 4 because sometimes that confuses people. So I'm going to give you a path. And then I also want to say that sometimes things look different on different operating systems and different computers. I don't know why that is, but what I did before this meeting and before I put these slides together, I checked all of these things on my PC and on a Mac. I do have both kinds of computers. And I checked them on an iPad. So I know that they look different. I know some of the ways they look different, but I don't know all of the ways, and we won't cover every single possible thing. And then also, you may see me as an expert, but I first heard of Zoom in April or May. So I've learned a lot in the last year or two. So what we're going to cover first are basic Zoom controls, because I think that those are more important, you have to know those in order to go on to the other tasks. Now, can everyone see these slides, and are they readable and everything?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. There are some places where I'm a little worried that the text might be small, but I try to expand things and make it readable, so hopefully you'll be able to do it. Okay, so I think one of the things about Zoom, and I just as an extra disclaimer, I captured all of these Zoom meeting things in the Education Committee meeting last week. So you'll kind of see double pictures of yourself in some cases. But when I look at Zoom and it's just a huge black screen, I can see how some people might be intimidated by that. So what do? And the answer is, if your screen is looking black and there are no controls on it, like the picture here, if you scroll over your screen, the controls will become visible. And if we have time at the end, I'll show you how you can make those controls persistent. There is a way to do that. And that's also one of the things that shows up differently on different computers. So on my PC, the controls are not there. But when I sign into Zoom on my Mac, the controls are there. On my PC and on the Mac, they're at the bottom. On an iPad, the controls are at the top. So that makes it a little bit difficult to, when people are having trouble using it, to kind of troubleshoot on the spot and say, well, move your mouse over this, because it could be in a different place in different people's computers. But if you scroll over it, if you scroll over your computer and your controls are visible and you are not hosting a meeting, you should see a number of different controls. In the top left hand, you should see this little green symbol. It's meeting logistics, but I'm calling it the little green symbol. You should see in the top right part of your screen a symbol that says View. You should see in the bottom left-hand part of your screen, and this could be well, I think bottom, you should see the mute button, the stop video button, the participants, the chat, the share screen, the record, reactions, and the leave button. Does everyone see all of those?
Yes.
Yes, you see all those? Okay, and so I've tried to build in some practice into this session, because one of my learning gurus was Robert Gagne, and one of the conditions of learning is that you practice what you're learning. So if you haven't done that already while I was talking, take a minute to run your cursor and look at the controls and make sure all of the ones that I just went over are still there. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what each of those controls does. Okay. We all there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So meeting logistics. If you click on meeting logistics, you will see for the meeting that I captured these images from, you will see that it was an education committee meeting. You'll see the meeting ID. You'll see that Kathy hosted it and the passcode. You'll see the Zoom link. And I want you to pay particular attention to this little button here, this little blue highlighted thing, because it's a link. And that allows you to copy the meeting link. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then participant ID. So I'm not sure when I would ever use the report. I suppose back in April, Zoom had some issues with people crashing Zoom meetings, and it was a security issue. And I suppose if anyone crashed a meeting, you could use that button to report it to Zoom. And that might be what I would do. Okay, so the next one is the view button, and this control changes. So if I'm the, sometimes if you're a host, the buttons change. Sometimes if you're in slideshow mode, the view changes. But this view, when you click on that, it tells you what views are available to you at any given time. And when I captured these slides, or these images for the slideshow, I was a participant, so all that was available, and no one was sharing. So all that was available to me was speaker view, gallery view, and full screen. And then if I'm sharing a screen, the choices differ too. Okay, now let's move on to the audio control at the bottom. There are two kinds of distinctly different actions that the audio control thing will do. You see how it has the little mic that is the mute, and then you see that tiny little up arrow. That's a specific control. So if you click on the mute, well, no, actually, if you click on the mute, it just mutes you, and you've probably done that. But if you click on the up arrow, it gives you a number of different choices. It gives you, and those choices also vary depending on what device you are using. If you're using an iPad, it gives you far fewer choices, because iPad assumes that you're not going to have external microphones and speakers attached. It assumes some things. But if you're on a Mac or a PC, it should give you all of these choices. And you notice that the ones that are checked are the ones that are active for me right now. So I'm using my system microphone, I'm using my system speakers. It also allows you to test your speaker and microphone, to switch to phone, and it also allows you to go deeper into the audio settings. And if you go deeper, it's not really robust. There's not a whole lot of audio settings that you can adjust or deal with. But if you click on audio settings, you will see the control box will come up, audio will be highlighted, and you see some of the same controls that were in that earlier box. But one of the things I wanted to highlight here, I haven't tested this, so I don't know personally how well it works, because I live in a very quiet place. But this allows you supposedly to suppress background noise. The default state is auto, But if you have pets, or if you live near where there's traffic, or you have grandchildren or children running around, you could try going to this control and testing out some of the other, either medium or high, and see if that works. Now, if you were doing music and professional audio, you might use this, but I doubt that I would never use that. I don't see myself using that anyway, not yet. So does anyone have any questions so far?
So you've never tried the background suppression?
I haven't, because I live in a quiet place, Robin. It's so quiet here, there's nothing to suppress. I guess I could turn on the radio in another room and test it that way. But it's easy enough to test. So again, the way that you would get there is just by clicking on that up arrow and clicking on audio, the bottom audio thing, and that would get you audio settings, and that would get you to that little box.
But most of us just use the mute button.
Yeah. But this is a different option, It's sort of like, like I said in the beginning, there's at least two ways to accomplish any task you want to accomplish on a computer. And that's just...
Question?
Yep.
I just bought, I don't have it yet, but I bought a mic, for external mic for my computer. Where would that pop up on select a microphone?
It would, Rachel, and I just helped someone in Arizona set up an external mic using Zoom to help her set it up. And she has a fairly new computer. It's not a Mac, it's a PC, and it's a desktop, and it's a pretty basic computer. But the minute she plugged the mic in, it connected automatically, and it worked in Zoom.
Oh, good.
And it was just a USB connection. So I was like, phew, thank goodness. That could have been fun to troubleshoot from between here and Arizona. But, we unboxed it and we put it together, and she had to mount it on her desk, and it worked, and it's working great. So it should be relatively transparent and easy. If it's not, then do check those controls in Zoom.
Okay.
Okay.
I hope it's automatic.
Yep. Yeah, I vote for automatic too. I hope it does that. And was that Peyton asking a question?
Yeah, it is. On my Mac, when I click on the green button, I have to go over to the settings. They've got the wheel over in the upper right-hand corner to get the background piece.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, I try.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to that because I skipped that. So in that little green button, when you do the meeting controls, there also is that little gear at the top. That little gear gives you access to all of the Zoom controls. So if you want, if you're having trouble, and remember that's the little green button, opens the meeting logistics, and it just happens to have that little settings button that accesses all of the Zoom settings. And that should work on either a Mac or a PC, probably not on an iPad. Okay, let me get back to where I was. All right, here's where we were. All right, so that's the audio settings. So the video. This one is the most fun and the most powerful. This is the one you can play with. This is the one my granddaughter loves. This is the one that I bet drives all first grade teachers crazy, because you'll see, it has the stop video. And if I click on the stop video, it takes my active video screen away and puts my profile picture up. But if I click on the up arrow, it gives me a couple of different choices. It also, just like a mic, you could have a separate camera attached to your computer, and that would show up then. I don't, so it only shows up the webcam that's built in, but you could use a different camera. You can choose virtual background, video filter, or video settings. I'm going to go first to video settings. And you'll see my silly picture here. This was captured after when I was playing around with it. And you'll notice in my picture, I have a virtual background, and I have big black eyebrows and fuchsia lips. And I'm going to show you how you can do that too, because I know everybody here wants that. So, but basically one of the things in video settings, the only thing you can do is really kind of set some preferences. You can say always display participant names on their video or not. You can turn off your video when you're joining a meeting. You can always show a video preview. And you see, I have those checked. I think those were default checks. I don't think I actively checked those, but I could change them if I wanted to. And then I think probably in video settings, one of the things I love best is the ability to change the number of participants that I see. It was defaulted to 25 when I first started using Zoom, but I set it up to 49. So when I'm in a meeting of the general membership group of cats, I can see everyone who's attending without having to scroll forward. And that's just because I clicked on that little button there by 49 participants. Okay. You got that? All right. Now, if I choose virtual background, and this works, yeah, this does work on a Mac. If I choose virtual background, it shows me at the bottom of the screen a number of different virtual backgrounds. And if I want to, so these 4 at the bottom are pictures of trees that I had taken that I particularly liked. And I put those in as virtual background pictures, and I can choose those. And you can see Peyton is playing with it right now. He has a big fish as a virtual background. And now maybe coral, I can't really tell. But that allows you to change the virtual background. And then you see this little check down here. The virtual background, if you don't have high bandwidth, it can be a little glitchy, and the video kind of flickers and distorts. And so a lot of people get a green screen. And that makes it easier. And if you have a green screen, and that can be basically anything that's green that doesn't show up on video, and then you'll look better against your virtual background if you wanted to do that. And let's see. I think it's built in. Basically, the virtual background is a privacy feature. It's one of the things. If I didn't want people, if I were doing a wider group that I didn't know the people, I might not want to share my home with people. So I might do a virtual background so that I wasn't sharing my home with people. All right, so then video filter, if I click on that video filter, that's where the fun comes in. And I can't really think where you would use this except to amuse your grandchildren. And I did recently have a birthday on Zoom, and my granddaughter was so jealous because she's using an iPad and she doesn't have access to these video filters, but I do. And you can see that there are a number of different party filters and holiday filters, and you can give yourself Google eyes and a hat and a Santa hat and all of those fun things. And if you want, also notice in the bottom of that, there's a thing that says Studio Effects. And that's where I got the black eyebrows. They didn't have to be black. I did that for emphasis just to be silly. If you wanted to give yourself some nice little brown eyebrow pencil, you could do that. If you wanted to give yourself a mustache and a beard. And if you wanted to give yourself some lip color. And notice, I don't have this expanded far enough when I did the screen capture, but on the eyebrow thing, you see this little color wheel? It allows you to pick the exact color that you want. So if you wanted to give yourself just the perfect shade of lipstick, this was a special shade that I picked out. You can give yourself lipstick too. And I actually have a friend in Arizona who did this in a color that is pretty much what she would wear, and it looks like she has lipstick on all the time. So there's your virtual makeup.
Don't get any ideas, Bill.
Yeah, and I think it's really, those are just toys, I think. It's just to make it a little more fun. It is built as a social app, and, it just kind of makes things more fun. All right, so now it's your turn to practice. I want to give you a minute. I want you to open the Choose Video filter and change one thing. And then you can either select one of the frames to put around yourself, or you can change one thing about your appearance. And I'll be able to see that in my little, oh, I see Peyton has a funny mask on.
Ellen, I wanted to say that it's good to know that if we change the background of something and we're playing with it, that the other people can see it if we're in a meeting.
Absolutely, it is good to know. Oh, and the other thing I forgot to point out, do notice in that studio effects, there is a little button that says apply to all future meetings. That was actually defaulted to on and before I unchecked it in my controls. And so if you give yourself crazy eyebrows and you have that checked, you're going to see crazy eyebrows in every single meeting that you do. There you go, Pam. Good job. Oh, look, Mary has on glasses. Oh, look, Pam has a little antennae too.
So Helen, my computer, this is Michelle, my computer says your core processor does not meet our recommended specifications.
Oh, look at Phyllis.
Backgrounds.
Oh, okay, Michelle. Oh, okay.
It's an
And
Intel processor.
mine doesn't do anything when I select it.
I had to download mine.
Mine's
Yeah, I
not.
did.
Oh,
Did you? Some people, someone.
Oh,
Phyllis,
there it is.
oh, there's a frame on Mary. And maybe it takes a minute if you. Oh, look at your little party hat, Phyllis. All right. Oh, wow, there's a TV screen frame. 1950s TV screen. So that's basically.
good luck, Tim.
Oh,
And how do you get rid of it?
it goes away in a minute or unchecked.
Oh.
It goes away. It's not persistent. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that. Yeah. And that's, those are just silly to play with, but, oh, Tim, I love that. That's a good look. Oh, funny. Those are funny things. So when
Trying to cut down the glare.
when I'm on Zoom with my 6-year-old granddaughter, she is changing things she's like capturing screen grabs and turning it into a virtual background and hanging upside down. And it is a wild experience, I tell you. But anyway, that's just fun. Okay. All right. We're going to
the next family gathering.
Yeah, those are best for family gatherings. Yeah, or when you just want to be silly, and sometimes you do. Okay, so moving on to participants. One of the things I like about participants is you see the tiny little number on my screen, 11. And on your screen, you should see how many people are in this. I'm not at the screen where I can see that at the moment, but you should see how many participants are in our current meeting. And it tells you at a glance how many people are in the meeting.
I'm sorry, Helen, may I ask one other quick question? Because
Sure.
I think it may be back one.
Yep.
How do we put up a profile picture?
How do you put it? Oh, good question. You should be able to do that. Hang on. Oh, I'm not in a screen where I can show that. I think if you went to profile, if you went to settings, go to that little green button and click on the settings and click on profile and click on your picture. That's off the top of my head. I'm not looking at it. I think that will work.
Okay, thank you. I just was wondering because that's one of those things that,
Yeah, no, that's something I should have added to this. No, that would have been a really good add. Because then,
Helen?
Yeah, Phyllis?
I cannot get rid of my eye.
I can't get rid of my eye.
Okay.
I'm stuck
Click on
in perpetuity.
What if you click on those things again? Does that unselect them?
It's actually
My things aren't even up anymore.
It should go
I only
away.
have red color.
Why?
Actually,
My
there's
studio effect.
there's a button that says none on the upper.
Okay, so if you
upper
click
top.
that one.
Yeah, I clicked on that, nothing.
Nothing.
It's really strange. Oh,
Hold
well,
on. Let me see.
if you
What
don't mind,
about,
I don't mind.
what about, let's see, beta.
Okay,
Well, so there is one, so if you notice on the Studio Effects thing, it does say beta. So apparently it's in test. They're testing it. And maybe we need to give them the feedback that it's not turning off. It really should go away.
well,
What about the reset?
let's hope.
Phyllis, what about reset? Down by the close, there's a reset button.
I don't have that visible to me.
You don't.
I have, let's see, nope, I have mirror my video and
It's in the Studio
Effects
Effects.
beta on the bottom.
Okay, when you click on Studio Effects
Okay.
beta,
It doesn't come up.
Uh-huh.
it doesn't come up. On mine, it
No.
comes up with a reset button.
No.
But
No.
everybody should have none for a selection.
Everyone
not-
should, yeah, you should have none. Everyone should have none in in all of those categories.
Hold on. Yes,
There you
it
go.
worked.
There
Thank
you go. Okay, cool. The
Thank
none.
you.
Okay. No problem. We enjoyed that. All right, so back to participants.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. No, that was kind of fun. All right. So when you click on the participants, you see a full list of all of the participants that are in your meeting. And when we've explored whether or not you can capture a list of participants. And the only way that I have found to do that so far is to just select this whole list and copy it and paste it into a Word document and then transcribe it. But do notice in the participants thing, so if someone who is supposed to be in a meeting is texting you or emailing you and saying, I can't get into the meeting, remember the meeting link that we copied in the little green button meeting logistics box? If you copy that link and then you click on this invite, you can invite someone to a Zoom meeting without going out of the meeting. And what comes up for me, and I'm assuming it's going to be slightly different for different people, but what comes up for me is it gives me a choice of what email I want to use. And the one that's been the most reliable for me is Gmail. The others have not worked. So the only one that I've gotten to work is Gmail. So, but I've used that button successfully. Sometimes some people get a glitch in their link. I don't understand what happens, but they just can't get in to a meeting. And I've invited them that way. But that's in the participants.
Will you repeat it again? You go to your own name and
No, you go to, you see the little green, you know, in meeting logistics, the first little green symbol that we covered at the very beginning of the basic controls.
Mhm.
In that, if you click on that green symbol, there is that little blue symbol that says copy link.
link.
If
Okay.
you click on copy link, it will copy it to your computer clipboard. It's what it's called. And you can paste it anywhere. But then if you want to invite someone, you go to participants and choose the invite button and paste it into the email that comes up, and you send it to them via email.
So Helen,
And yeah,
my information, that copy link is in a little circle with an I in it, standing for information, rather than in the logistics green checkbox.
where is that? Where does that show up on your computer, Michelle?
Right next to the green check box. there's a little
Really?
information thing that has that copy link in it, not
And
the feedback box.
Do you have a Mac or a PC?
Have a Mac.
And I checked on a Mac and I have the green box.
Well, this is an old Mac.
Mine's about 5 years old.
This is more like 8 years old.
Oh, okay. Could be. All right. Maybe it could be back farther. All right.
Helen, that's the way it shows up on mine as well.
Does
this
it?
is on a PC, on a laptop. It's about 2 years old.
Really? Wow. So that is the hard thing about computers, is that I don't understand. I mean, I guess that it has to do with when they're gathering requirements for doing the programming. You know, the Mac people say we want this, this, and this, and the PC people say we want this, and they build it all in. But it plays out so differently that it is what makes computers a little bit challenging and probably more confusing. But the other thing you can do with in the participant box is you can mute people. So like if, for example, someone's dog was barking and they were not attending to it, you would see that their picture, their video would be highlighted with yellow or green, showing that sound was coming from their video. And you could go into participants and mute them if you're the host. I'm not sure you can do that if you're not the host, but as a host, you can do that. Okay. Then there's the chat, and that's pretty obvious. And I think you may have all used that at one point or another. The only thing I want to point out on the chat box is that the chat in general goes to everyone unless you use this little drop-down arrow, and it opens up a list of all of the people who are in your meeting. And you can pick any one of them and check them. If I wanted to send Mary a chat, I can send her a chat just to her. That does require that the other person that's getting the chat have their controls active and see the little red thing that pops up telling them there's a chat for them. And that's kind of, I've missed a couple of chats that way, but it is a feature that is there. Okay, the share screen. Okay, and the actions here vary depending on whether you are a host or a participant. So we're not really going to look at much now, but when we talk about setting up a meeting and sharing a screen, then we'll go a little bit deeper into that. The green button basically shares your screen. Oh, let me back up.
I have a question.
Yep.
So if you've got a fairly small group and people are interacting by raising their hand mostly, we should definitely check the chat anyway towards the end of the meeting just to make sure. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, that's why when we've done the Tree Basics classes, the couple that we've done, we've assigned someone to monitor the chat. So if you have a large meeting and you know, so just have that as a meeting role. Just someone is monitoring the chat.
Great.
I have a question, Helen.
Yep.
How is the name of the participant assigned? When we saw that long list, we had people calling themselves mom.
Oh yeah, that you do that yourself, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. You can change your own name, and you can change it anytime you want. You can change it every meeting if you like. But we're going to get to that in a minute, so put that on hold. And if I don't answer it, get to your satisfaction, do ask, okay?
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
As far as, I guess you're going to go more into sharing screen, because if I was actually running a meeting right now, I'm looking at your presentation. And the photos on the right-hand side, there's the 5 photos, but I can't actually see your type on here, your text. It goes full screen.
You can move that. You can move your box of the Zoom window.
But I guess I can't, because if I do, it goes off. Your particular presentation is full screen. So is there some way for me to control that?
You should be able to make that not full screen. You should have a view button there that allows you to exit full screen. And it should be, let's see, I'm looking at
side mode.
Yeah, but Mary,
I see. It actually
I had the same problem when I first started. the little Zoom pictures were right on top of my text. So what I did is I took my cursor using my map trackpad, and I put my cursor on the black bar on the top of the pictures, and I held it down, and I can move that little box of Zoom pictures anywhere on the screen I want. And I moved it far over to the left so that it's cutting off a little bit of the picture, but it's not cutting off any of the text.
And
Helen,
actually,
if you go up to the view and click on it, now, again, I've got a Mac laptop, but I get standard, side-by-side speaker, side-by-side gallery, and exit full screen. Standard overlays the gallery on your screen, you know, on your share screen.
Yeah.
Side-by-side gallery makes your full screen a little bit smaller and puts the gallery over on the right-hand side.
Yeah, and I actually have, I think my control is a little different than that too, Bill. When I click on the grid, I have only 4 different choices. I can show smaller, I can show them in a line, vertical, and I can show them in a grid. That's so fascinating that we have different views. But did that work, Mary, for you to drag it away?
Actually, what I did is I just went to view options and I took it out of full screen mode. I didn't realize that was set that way.
Yep.
So I did figure it out as we were, you know, when we first started talking, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
But I didn't know whether other people, I guess, so that really comes the way that an individual, it really has nothing to do with when you're setting up the meeting.
No, right. A lot of Zoom controls are at the individual user level. You know, so you can only do so much. And then the other thing that I'm actually just noticing, because I don't share my screen very much, but at the top of my screen, when I scroll over the thing that says you are screen sharing, I get a whole different set of controls. I get annotate and a remote control that I have never actually seen before. You know, and so it is a robust program. Let's just say that. Okay, so we're going to cover more about sharing the screen later. So let's move on. So record obviously is the record button, and that allows you to record on this computer or record to the cloud. I record everything to my computer. So far I haven't, I don't really do a whole, I meet with a group every other Saturday and we record a portion of it, maybe 10 minutes of our session, because it's a meditation. And that hasn't taken up too much bandwidth. But when you notice these keystroke, that would fall under the category of more than one way to do things. If I wanted, rather than clicking on this record button and opening the box, I could go straight to Alt, pressing the Alt key plus the R key and record it to my computer, or the Alt key plus the C key and record it to the cloud. And then it's important to know that once you stop recording something, like I could stop recording at any time after I start a recording. But when you close your meeting at the end of the meeting, that recording needs to compile. And I get a message on my screen that says, video is compiling, please wait. And it takes, 3 or 4 minutes to compile a 10-minute video. And then it saves it on my computer. It stores it to documents. It makes a special folder called Zoom. It did that the first time I ever recorded anything, and it records a separate file, a separate little folder for each date that I record something, and it just dates it that date. And so that's how you record. And then reactions, those are kind of for fun. They're not persistent either. They only last about 10 seconds. These vary between a Mac and a PC. A Mac seems to have faster, slower, some little things that ask the speaker to slow down or speed up. But these are the reactions that I get on my PC. And I really have only used them once or twice. They're for fun. Okay, but wait, there's more. Now you'll notice I made these bigger. If you mouse over the pictures of the people in this meeting, you will see different things. If someone is muted, it will say ask to unmute. If someone is, let's see, not muted, it will give you a chance to, oh no, that's not the blue thing, that's beside. That's the blue dot one, gives you the choices of chat or pin. So rather than going to the chat box and opening it up and doing the drop down to find a person, if you wanted to chat with someone, you could go to the little 3 blue dots. And pin means that you want them to be the active video that you see on your screen. I've only seen that used, so I take a watercolor class on Zoom, and the instructor has a video of herself, and then she has a video of what she's demonstrating to us. And I generally pin what she's demonstrating for us. So that's how I use pin. I can't think of another really good use for it. And then if you click on your own, this is where I told you I would get to later. You have some choices. If you click on your own 3 dots, you get mute my audio, stop video, and rename. And this is where you can give yourself a new name. So I think it was Penny that asked that. And this is where you can also, Bill, you can also edit your profile picture too here.
Helen, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
When I go to the record button, I get a pop-up message that says I need to get permission from the host.
Yeah.
Record.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Yeah, and sometimes I thought I had it set up so anyone could record, but maybe I didn't. You can go to settings and set it when you're setting up meetings. You can set it so anyone can record. But yeah, and I think that's probably fair, because you wouldn't want to record something if your host didn't want you to record them. So anyway, so that's pretty powerful. It gives you a whole bunch of things that you can change by just clicking on those tiny little blue dots. All right, so then I wanted to just quickly, I'm not going to do this very much. Zoom for iPad, the screen looks pretty much the same, except the controls are at the top. You have fewer controls, fewer audio and video controls, and many of the controls are in the more category. So when I clicked on more in my iPad, I get the raise hand, the security, the record, the chat, meeting settings, and so forth. So there are a couple of other things there. All right. I'm going to take a breath now.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So is it the meeting settings where you can let somebody else choose to record? Where is it you find that?
I think it is in, I think we'll get to that in a minute. I think it's in the, oh, maybe I didn't get a screen capture of that. I think it is in the host buttons. I'm going to show you in a minute. I'm going to show you the different controls if you're the host. So they vary. So as a host, I have slightly different buttons at the bottom, slightly different controls.
Right.
And one of them I think allows that. And if I didn't get a screen grab of that, then I'll have to do that later. But anyway, so now we're going to go into how to set up a meeting.
Before we do that,
yep.
Back on the issue of recording, I think kind of as a policy, the host should be the only person who can record one of our things, like particularly a meeting or a class.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Yeah.
We would decide ahead of time whether we want to have anyone have the ability to record that, or we would decide we want to do it and we will post it. But otherwise, I don't think we should let people do it. But that's kind of a policy issue for the board.
And Tim, I totally agree with that.
So can y'all just tell me why? I just have a boyfriend who likes to record everything.
Well, I think it's a privacy issue. I wouldn't want anyone recording me, like whenever Tim asked if I would record this, I'm not real comfortable. Some people like being in front of a video camera. I got out of mass communications because I didn't want to be in front of a video camera.
Okay, I just want to mention that the main reason that my boyfriend Bill records is because he has hearing problems and
Oh, yeah.
needs to replay things.
Yeah, and that's a valid thing, Robin, and I don't know how to get around it, but I think
I mean, if somebody asks permission and says that's their problem, maybe.
if someone asks permission and the person who is hosting is comfortable with it, sure.
Okay.
And you can, yeah, and I mean, I think that's different, but yeah. Any more questions before we move on? Okay. All right. There are a lot of ways to schedule a meeting from Zoom. You can schedule it from the app that's on your computer. You can schedule it you can actually sync up Outlook to work with Zoom, and I think Google, and then that allows you to schedule from those, but I like scheduling it from zoom.com. And so that's what I'm going to cover. And the reason I like it is because it's a big screen. It allows me to see it better. It allows me to go straight to a lot of other controls if I want to. So the way I start when I set up a meeting is I go to zoom.com. And when I go to zoom.com, whoops, that was too fast. Up in the top right-hand corner, near the top, there is a little thing that says My Account. The picture will change. Actually, it was really funny. I didn't realize the picture would change, but as I was doing screen grabs, the picture changed. And I went, oh, how fascinating. You won't have the same picture. So if you're counting on that, but it's in this top corner. It's up by Join a Meeting, Host a Meeting, and My Account. And so I just click on My Account. And then that brings up a general, so let me go back. That brings up a general screen, and it looks like this, and it shows my picture. It's the profile picture that I use. On the left, it shows a whole bunch of stuff like profile meetings, settings. Settings is important to know, but it also shows schedule a meeting. And so I click on schedule a meeting. And when I click on schedule a meeting, I get a template basically that has a bunch of fields. And scheduling a meeting is just a matter of filling in as many of the fields. And I'm going to cover why you would want to go a certain way with some fields, but basically you do a topic. I don't always put in a description. You don't have to fill in the description. You don't really have to fill in the topic. You can call it all My Meeting if you want. But I did this as an example when I set up the Tree Basics pruning session. So this is what it looked like. I said Tree Basics Pruning Landscape Trees. And for a description, I said a CATS Tree Basics class in which Tim Maywalt will demonstrate all aspects of pruning landscape trees. And that's probably not quite right, Tim. I debated about whether to say all aspects, just as a legal disclaimer. But that was just my description that I put in. And then you fill in the date is a calendar chooser. So you click on the little calendar and pick the date. And then you pick the time, 10, and you have AM or PM. I generally set most meetings in Zoom for 2 hours. I don't know why, I just got in the habit of doing that. It gives me enough time if I need it. And then notice that the time zone is here. You can choose that and choose to set up a recurring meeting, but I have not had success with that. I've had the subsequent meetings all crash and they say that the old meeting isn't closed. I've just not had success with that at all.
A question, Helen.
Yep.
If you set the duration as whatever, like 2 hours in this case, does it cut you off at 2 hours?
It depends on what kind of account you have. If you have a paid account, no.
Right.
If you have an unpaid account, it cuts you off at 40 minutes anyway. So no, it doesn't cut you off. And I have tested that too at Christmas. So
thanks.
You're welcome. Whoops. So then let's see, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so then it gives you a choice of generate automatically or use your personal meeting ID. If you have a Zoom account, they have assigned you a personal meeting ID. And you could choose to use that for every single meeting. I do not, because I think it probably leads to or enables security issues. Zoom had a big security breach in April where people were crashing meetings. And I think that using a personal meeting ID would make it easier for them to crash your meeting.
Oh,
So I choose generate automatically because that means that every meeting I set up, they generate a new random number for my meeting ID. So that's why I use that. I check security passcode, although they never ask for it anymore. I uncheck waiting room, and I think this is a personal preference. If you have waiting room checked, you have to admit every single person. And that gets to be, I mean, we were doing that for CATS for the first Zoom meetings that we did, but it gets a little tedious. And then require authentication to join. That means that the user, the attendee has to do something ahead of the meeting to obtain that authentication. And that, to me, that makes it more cumbersome. If I had a meeting that I felt required additional security, I would use that. Otherwise, I would uncheck it.
do we come up with our own passcode, or will there be?
No, that's random generated too. That just auto populates.
Oh.
Okay, and then I think it's pretty important on my default state, it had host and participant video set to off. I want my host and I want myself and my participants and attendees to be able to have their video on, so I make sure that's checked to on. Okay. And I can send you these slides. You don't have to take really copious notes because you can have these slides, by the way. And then you scroll down more, and one of the things that I think is important to check is make sure that you have both checked for audio. Some people do call in on their phone if they're driving, and so you want them to be able to hear too. In meeting options, I want participants to be able to join at any time. I don't necessarily want to mute them when they enter because I want to take advantage of the social contact aspects of Zoom. So I uncheck that. I don't automatically record a meeting, but I could. And then this is approve or block entry to users from specific regions or countries. I mean, I suppose that's a problem in China. That's probably one of the requirements that South Korea put on the Zoom folks, but I've never used that. And that's it basically. So you go down that list of fields and fill those in, and then you click save. And when you click save, you get a confirmation. And it says it's been added to your calendar. And so you review it to make sure that everything is right. And notice I made a mistake here because I wanted to show you that there's a way, if you make a mistake, you can correct it. I wanted to also highlight that you can add it to your calendar if you use any one of these 3 calendaring systems. I use Outlook as a holdover from my corporate days. So I click that and it puts it on my Outlook calendar. That way I never have to go searching for a link if anybody wants to see it, and ask for it ahead, ask me to include someone else. I know where it is. There's a copy invitation button here too, just like there was in the little green meeting logistics control. And if you copy the invitation, you'll be able to paste it into an email to send to someone that you want to invite. And then if you scroll down and check the bottom of this confirmation form, you'll see at the very bottom, there's an edit button. And so, so I just showed you here that I made a conscious mistake here. I had the date wrong. So I can click on the edit button and I can go back and edit that and make it correct before and then save it again.
Got another question.
Yep.
And that's there was a box.
What?
There was a box 2 slides back about alternative hosts.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Where was that?
Go back to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was my question also, Jim. Oddly enough.
Come forward one.
You were just
waiting.
Was that the
next one?
Right there.
Right there.
Right here. Right there.
The very last.
Oh yeah. Oh, I totally skipped that. Yep. You can only do that if the person has a paid account. And if the person you have to have them as a contact. And I have to admit, I have failed at adding contacts. About 6 weeks ago, I tried to add Tim and Mary and Kathy as contacts so that I could put them in as alternate hosts. And I generated the email, and it went, I think it went to you guys, but I don't know what happened to it after that, because I never got a response from any of the three of you. So, and I sent an email, and so I don't know what happens. So you may have in your Zoom account somewhere, you may still have a request from me to add you to my contacts. If you do and you find it in there, accept it, and then I'll have you in there and I can add you. But that's what's required before you can add anyone. It'll just kick it out and say they're not a contact. You have to add them as a contact first.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is that, you know, we bought a separate Zoom account specifically
Right.
under Kat's name, and we'll want to put in, you know, probably most of the people who are in the session, so that they can all, I mean, up to 9 different people can set up meetings in Zoom when you've got the kind of account we have. So we'll figure that out.
Yeah, that's something that we need to figure out. And I think that, to me, Tim, that goes beyond basics, especially if I have failed at it. If I have failed at it, I
draw
assume
straws.
Yeah, right. I don't know how to do that. I failed anyway.
Helen, you just eliminated some of the ways of doing it.
Oh, right.
You haven't failed yet. Remember?
Yeah. I haven't failed yet. Yeah.
Hypothesis.
It's okay. I don't mind failing once in a while. But anyway, so thanks for asking that. And if, you know, Tim and Mary, if you look in your Zoom accounts and specifically look to see if you have a contact request from me, I'm not sure where that would show up. Maybe what you should do, Tim, why don't you send me a contact request from here, and then I can also see if I find it. We'll take that offline.
Okay.
Anyway, you review the confirmation and make sure your meeting is all set up as you want. And then notice at the bottom, there's this poll thing. If you wanted to add a poll, you have to scroll way over to the right. It's like, I almost didn't see the button. I'm like, where's the button? It's way over to the right. And you can add any number of polling items that you want, but you have to have your meeting set up first. Now, some of the controls that I've seen have an active poll thing that you can do while your meeting is in progress. You can actually create a poll question. I don't have that in my controls, and I don't know why I don't have it in my controls. I haven't had time to explore how to add that to my controls, but some people may have that. Okay, then the last step, I think, is you copy the meeting link. So once you click save, you will get this copy meeting invitation. And if you click on that blue button, it will copy it. And when I get that, I go to my email and I send it to whoever needs to get it. You know, if I need to send it to Penny, or if I need to send it to Tim or my folks in Arizona, I copy the meeting invitation and send it right then so I don't forget, because otherwise I'll forget. And that's it, you're done. That's how you set up a meeting.
Ellen, what if you wanted to copy the invitation and send it later? Can you copy it and send it to your own email, right?
You can send it to your own email, or you could copy it and paste it into a Word document. You know, you can copy it, but it's always going to be, you can always go back to zoom.com, and on your account, you can go to meetings, and your list of meetings will be there, and you can copy it again. It'll never disappear. It's not going to be, but right. to me, it's easiest and best practice to get it done, you know, rather than having to go back to it.
Thank you.
But you won't lose it. Or you can use the Zoom desktop app, and I'm just going to fly through that because you should have an icon on your computer that's a little Zoom camera, and if you click on that, you will get this interface open up. And it has everything that we've talked about so far in that as well. And if you wanted to add a meeting from there, you would just click schedule, and you would fill in the same fields, and you'll see that they're the same fields that were in the zoom.com link. And you scroll down, there's a scroll bar on the side, so you have to scroll down and make sure you get all of them. Scroll down for more and complete all the fields, and then click save. And they're the same fields. And if you do it through that, notice that, excuse me, I have this little Outlook button checked. If I had Google Calendar checked and I were a Google user, I assume it would work the same way. But since I have Outlook checked, when I click save, it puts it on my Outlook calendar automatically, and it queues up an email for me to send to other people. I assume that Google might work the same way too.
Does anybody know that? Has anybody done this?
I do it with Outlook.
Yeah,
I mean, not with Outlook. Does anybody use Google who has seen that it shows up the same way in Google?
Well, it shows up, Tim, but I'm not too familiar. I mean, I have a Gmail account and I don't use it very much. I use it for junk political stuff.
Yeah, okay. I'll do it to see how it works.
It came up, but I'm not familiar enough with the Google screen to realize, to know how to use the calendar in Google, to tell you the truth. But I mean, I'm sure it would come up similarly. All right.
I have a question.
What?
So if I want to send an invitation, isn't it just those 2 lines, or is it all that other stuff?
You know, I'm still unsure of that. I think that you only need the 2 lines. You really only need the 1 line. You really only need the link and the time and the date. But let's say someone, Michelle, who's on the line, is the only person I know so far that I know for sure has ever called in from a phone. And I'm not sure whether you need that stuff to call in from a phone. Did you need that, Michelle?
No, the link works fine.
The link works. Okay, then apparently you don't need it for anything. So yeah, so just send the link. I just send it all just out of habit. I think that if I had to guess, those are probably there for international people. You know, they may have different rules. Okay, so we're not going to practice right now this, but I do want you to practice within 24 hours of getting off of this call. I want you to set up a meeting in Zoom. So I want you to use the skills that we're going over now, because if you don't practice, you'll forget. That's one of the conditions of learning. And you can set it up with anyone. You can set up a happy hour with a friend. You can set up with a grandkid, a sibling, a friend, just a friend, anyone. But just set up any meeting just so you can practice. Okay. And then, okay, now hosting a meeting and sharing content. Continue on our cats theme, you'll see. All right. So there are multiple ways to open a meeting. Once you have set it up, you can open it from the Zoom app on your desktop. You can open it from a calendar item. You can open it from zoom.com. I actually get, I don't remember consciously doing this. I get a little pop-up on my computer that says you have a Zoom meeting starting in 5 minutes. Click here to start it. So I can start it there too if I'm hosting it, but I assume that's only if you're hosting it, but that's basically where we are now, is you're hosting it. So once you've set up your meeting, this is how you host it. Now, the first thing is that you will have slightly different controls on the bottom or top of your screen. The first control that you have that's different is the security control. And that gives you a number of different actions that are possible to make your meeting more secure. You can lock your meeting. That means no one else can join. So if you know that everyone's here, let's say you wanted to have a meeting that you didn't really want, you only wanted 5 or 6 people and they were a select group and they all arrived, you just lock it. You can enable the waiting room. And so you can do that at any time. Notice when we set up the meeting, there was the option to enable it or disable it. But you can also, once you're in a meeting as the host, you can enable it. You can say, well, well, maybe somebody else wants to join. Let's just enable the waiting room. And then if someone tries to join, it will pop up and tell you they're trying to join and you need to accept to let them in. I don't know why you would hide profile pictures. This is where you would allow participants to share their screen, to chat, to rename themselves, to unmute themselves. And I don't really know what they would start video. I don't, maybe that's just play their own video. And then you could, if you were a first grade teacher, you could suspend all participant activities so that your kids couldn't do anything to be distracted. And so that's the security. And you see, I think that Zoom should be pretty open, so I don't lock it down. I don't enable, I mean, I don't disable, I mean, I don't enable the waiting room. I generally allow people to do everything that they can do. Okay, so the other thing that you'll see is breakout rooms. And that, Tim, you might want to know more about that going forward in CATS, Tim and Mary, as you're designing training that might be delivered via Zoom. If you have a bunch of people, you can put them into little categories. You know, remember when we did the twig identification activity and we did it in groups and things like that? You can create as many as you want. Let's say you have 20 people and you want 4 people in each group. You would just create 5 breakout rooms and it would automatically assign the people. I haven't tried this myself. I've never done breakout rooms because I've never hosted a meeting before that I actually had any control over. And I've never had a reason to do it. It's something, you know, I experiment with Zoom a lot on my own. I will just go in and set up an impromptu meeting just to see how something works. But you can't do this unless you have a bunch of people to experiment with. So this would require, you know, a period of experimentation. And you can see that it assigns them, or you can let them choose the room. I would do assign automatically, just easier, and then create it. Okay, and then the little more icon over here, that allows you to stream live on Facebook. If you wanted to, I think, and this is just a guess, I haven't tested this, but if you wanted to get around the 100 participant thing for a Tree Basics class, you might try it, setting it up on LiveBook and on Facebook and streaming it live. And if you have created polls, a poll icon will also be in your toolbar. Let's see. Okay, screen sharing. And we're kind of segueing in. I'm not doing a separate category, I think, if I remember. So you'll see on the screen, the share screen, the green button still shares your screen. But if you're hosting a meeting, you have a little arrow here too. But I want to say, generally, the guidelines that I would give about screen sharing is, if you're going to be sharing content, get it ready before the meeting starts. Open your PowerPoint and have your slides queued up to where you want to start. If you're going to play a movie, open the movie and queue it up to start. You know, like I queue it past the ads that show up in the beginning. When we did the 2 little trailers at the member meeting in December, I queued those up and got past the ads so that all I had to do was open it and click on it. And then when you click the share screen button, which did I do here? Oh wait, I'm saving that. Okay, so I'm going to do the arrow first. So when you go into here, when you click on the up arrow, this is where you allow people to share. I think it was Bill that asked that question. And I don't know why you would have multiple participants sharing simultaneously. That would be confusing to me. So I only click one participant can share at a time. Who can share? I generally do click all participants, but you could click only host if you wanted only the host to share. And then who can share? Who can start sharing when someone else is sharing? I bet that's in there for 3rd grade teachers, so to control their kids. I can't imagine any other use for that in the world, because you know I would want a little more. So I would say only the host for that. But those give you some controls there. And then now the interesting thing is, at 2 different times on my own computer, I got 2 different options when I clicked on that up arrow. So I didn't get the same buttons both times, the same choices. And so I'm not sure what you'll get, but I think I've covered most of what you'll get that you would commonly use. Okay, so after you click, so now the actual sharing. When you click share screen, you get a choice of what you share. And the options include, there will always be a whiteboard choice to share. So you could plan a brainstorming session in which you use the whiteboard to capture people's brainstorming ideas. And the whiteboard, I didn't take this all the way to that conclusion and demonstrate that, but it basically has a save capability on it. So you can save the contents of it. I'm not sure I understand what sharing an iPhone or iPad, maybe if you're doing this from an iPad, it shares all the apps that you want to share. You can share video. So I have two videos here, like showing that would be open, that might be open on my computer. And then I have a PowerPoint presentation. And notice the one that's blue is the one that's highlighted. So when I click on one of these options that I want to use, it will highlight like this. And then you click the share button. Now notice if I'm sharing a video, I want to check share sound and optimize for video clip. But if I'm just sharing PowerPoint, I probably don't need to do that. Robin.
Is this for having a class? I mean, if you're just having a meeting, do you need to go into this?
Well, you don't know. This is for like one of the things that people wanted to know was how to share their screen. So this is if you need to share your screen. But let me propose another thing. So if you're having a board meeting, let's say, and you want to review the wording change for some of the board responsibilities, you could have that in a Word document. And if you had that Word document open on your screen, that would show up as one of the choices to share. And you could share it, and then you wouldn't have to distribute it and rely on everybody. Oh, I forgot where I put it, I lost it, you could share it right there and look at it real time together. You could even make the changes real time together and have everybody happy with the changes right there while you're sharing your screen. So no, it's not, I've hosted a lot of meetings, and this is only the second time I've shared my screen. But if you need to do it, you want to know how. So then
I have a question for you.
Okay.
So let's say you're the host and
Okay.
I'm the presenter, like we're going to have on the 23rd when we do the next class on pruning.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got my slideshow up and ready to go, and you hit share. You don't see my slideshow as a selection, do you?
No, I won't see. I only see what's on my computer.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah, no, I have to, go, if you went back a couple of screens, I allowed you to share. I had clicked, if I were the host, I had set up the meeting. So I would click allow participants to share, and then you would share, and I wouldn't see. No, but you could accidentally, now I've heard of accidental horror stories already on Zoom, you could accidentally, if you had your, let's say, I generally have a bunch of stuff open on my computer. I made a conscious decision to close everything today that I wasn't using. I generally I might have an Excel document of my budget open. I wouldn't want to accidentally click that and share that with anyone. So I basically, before I'm going to share, I close everything that I don't want anyone else that I don't want to be sharing with people.
Yeah, the only reason I brought this up was that what you're showing here on your screen is what you see as the host.
It's what I see, right.
Right. As opposed to what the presenter was saying. You would not see what I'm going to present until, you would never see it until I bring it up.
I would never see it. And I would never see. So if I clicked on my screen today, if I clicked on share screen today, go back. If I clicked on share screen today, you wouldn't see anything, any of this.
Right.
you know, you would, but if I accidentally, you know, clicked one before I meant to, you could see it. But these are all the choices that I have. Rachel?
I can see how in board meetings it would be very good to have this capability because, for example, the three chairs of the three committees are going to present their budgets for 2021. Well, the host could let each of them share their budget screen, and it would be in front of everybody when they were talking about their budget.
Absolutely. That occurred to me. That didn't occur to me either until I was making this presentation. And then I thought that'd be a perfect use for sharing your screen. And that would be another reason that you also might want to lock your meeting. You know, that lock meeting thing that was back a couple of screens ago. You might want to lock your meeting so that nobody else is seeing your budget proposals. If you care, I mean, you know, if you care. But yeah, that's exactly what how you would use it, Rachel.
So as long as you've got any screen open, you can share that screen. So if you had a photograph that you brought up in Finder, and I'm just, you know, that's the one.
Yep.
Then you could click on it and that photograph would show.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Okay.
I think your horror story, Helen, I've heard one or two myself.
Yeah.
It had very embarrassing stuff open on the screen and accidentally shared it.
Absolutely. And you know, and so you really want to think about that when you're hosting. Just think and you'll get it. Okay, so then let's see. So if you're sharing PowerPoint, so I basically opened my PowerPoint presentation today and I queued it up to the title slide. And once you open it, at the bottom of your screen is the little tiny icon that looks like a projector screen, an old-timey projector screen. And that puts your slides into slideshow mode. So they fill your screen rather than having all this other junk around. And if you are sharing a movie, you also might want to show the movie in full screen view. And the way you do that is you go to this little icon at the bottom right corner. I think it's always at the bottom right corner. And that looks like a little square, and that puts your movie into full screen mode. And then once you put the movie in full screen mode, then you can go over and click the play button. And when you finish sharing, when I finish this presentation and when you finish sharing anything in your screen, at the top of your screen, there's a little red button that says Stop Share. And when you click on that little red button, it will take you back to your Zoom meeting. And then when your Zoom meeting is over, you click the little End button and pat yourself on the back and say you did it. And when you are practicing, let's see, when we finish this meeting, be sure to practice all of the things we used. And I want you to keep in mind, you cannot break Zoom. Nothing you can do will break it. Do not be afraid to do anything. Zoom probably can't break your computer. I'm not going to say that for absolute 100% certain, but I'd bet a lot of money that there's no way it'll break your computer. You can experiment and practice with it and with a meeting with no one else there. I can't tell you how many Zoom meetings I set up to capture little screen components for this slide presentation. I just go in and click Start Meeting and there it is. And you can experiment with anything with it. There are lots of tutorials online to show you how to do anything. Any question you have about how do I do X, you can just Google that and I guarantee you there will be a tutorial on how to do it. So what questions do you have? That's all the content I have. Oh man, I timed that exactly an hour and a half. Wow.
I know.
Wow, I can't believe it. I had no idea how long it would go. Wow.
Great job.
Pat myself on the back. Thank you.
That was really excellent.
I hope it's helpful.
Very
And so
good. Thank you,
I'm-
Helen.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Helen. That was a lot of work. I was looking at all
Yeah.
the screen grabs and everything. That was really, really nicely done.
Well, thank you. You know, that was what I did for 2 decades. Kind of second nature to me. Not hard.
Ellen, that was great. Yeah,
Thank
having played with it some, I kept worrying about breaking it.
You won't break it. You do not worry about breaking it. You know, if it were breakable, they couldn't put it out. They're making money on this. They are in business to make money. They're not, it's going to work. Yeah. So play with it.
I have to say,
Helen,
Helen, I was
I know-
watching the
I know
tutorial.
you don't like to record your voice,
Oops.
but I think there's a lot of members who would love to have access to this, who would love to learn. And I think you did it in a